Beto O'Rourke, thank you so much for joining us. You announced you were running for governor today. Why are you running, and what are your top priorities?
I think we have an extraordinary opportunity to bring people together in Texas to focus on the big things that are most important to us, like making sure that the best jobs in America are created right here in Texas, or that we have world-class public schools for our kids, or that we make progress on things that most of us agree on, like expanding Medicaid so that everyone can see a doctor, and so that we reduce the property tax burden on the local homeowner. Those are big things that I think can bring all of us together, but it's going to take getting past the small divisive leadership of Greg Abbott, whether it's the grid failure that knocked millions out of power and cost hundreds their lives, or the botched response to COVID, or these petty culture wars around girls' athletics in middle schools, or the abortion ban with the bounties paid to vigilantes, or the permitless carry law that was signed despite pleadings from law enforcement not to make Texas more dangerous. We've got to get past this moment and get back to doing the big, important things to Texas. And so I'm very excited to be running and looking forward to working with the people of this state to make it happen.
I see you're in your truck, and I'm wondering, are you going to be going to every county as you did in your Senate race back in 2018?
Yes, I'm going to every single part of Texas because there's no hope to win this race. There's no hope to serve this state as governor if I haven't first met and listened to the people that I want to deliver for. And the only way I know how to do that is to meet them where they are. And in fact, I'm talking to you from Fort Stockton, where I just left a meeting with the Pecos County judge and local healthcare providers who are really concerned that if we don't expand Medicaid in Texas, we might see more rural hospitals close up. We might see fewer doctors in these already underserved communities. And the judge told me that he was talking to me because he probably isn't going to be able to get a meeting with Greg Abbott, and he wants to make sure that he has someone's ear who has the ability to help him. That's the way that we run this. That's the way that I want to serve.
You spoke before about expanding Medicaid. You said in your video, legalizing marijuana. How do you plan on getting that through a Republican legislature? I mean, it's been Republican for a while now.
You know, State Senator Nathan Johnson and State Rep Julie Johnson introduced a Medicaid expansion bill for Texas that would bring tens of billions of dollars into our communities, ensure more people could get care, and reduce the burden on local property taxpayers. Jack, they had a lot of Republican co-sponsors on that bill, a lot of support from the business community in North Texas and from across the state. We now just need a governor who will use the political muscle of that office to get it across the line and sign it into law and make sure that we're helping our fellow Texans. That's what leadership looks like. And that's why we've got to bring people together despite the divisive policies and politics of Greg Abbott. We've got to get past that and on to the big things that really work for most Texans.
Speaking of the governor, he said today while campaigning that your positions running for president last year, quote, weren't just at odds with Texans, they were hostile to Texas. He said you would deny Second Amendment rights. He said you would support open border policies. And he also said you would kill oil and gas jobs. What is your response to that?
No surprise that none of that is true. I think he's more interested in scoring political points and confusing the voters of Texas than he is in leading this state. I think we all wish he would focus instead on fixing the electricity grid or leading a competent response to the pandemic in Texas that has cost 72,000 lives. Look, what I'm focused on are the big things that most people in Texas are focused on: the quality of the jobs that they can work, the level of education that their kids are going to be able to achieve in our Texas public schools, and then moving forward on things that most of us agree on. And on every one of those issues that you just mentioned, I guarantee you, listening to and working with the people of Texas, we are going to make progress. And we're going to make sure that we are number one in the nation in job creation, that we lead the country in the quality of education, and that we make one another proud by coming together and working together and getting over these divisions and the petty, small politics of Greg Abbott.
Well, regarding the border, it has been Texans' number one issue on poll after poll after poll. So do you deny that this is a problem and an issue that needs to be dealt with?
What's happening at our border right now could not be more important. And as someone who lives on the border, and along with my wife, Amy, is raising our children on the border, we have every interest in ensuring that the border is safe and secure. And so, yes, we need more order. We need to make sure that we're following the rule of law. And we also need to make sure that we hold the members of Congress who purport to represent us accountable for improving our immigration laws to meet some of the challenges that we face here. What we don't need is a governor who's more interested in photo opportunities, who's using incredibly dangerous rhetoric like defend Texas, take matters into your own hands, calling immigrants an invasion. These are all terms that Greg Abbott has used. And they're the same kind of terms that inspired a gunman from Allen, Texas, to drive 600 miles to El Paso and kill 23 people, claiming that he was going to defend Texas and repel an invasion of Hispanics to this state. So let's be responsible. Let's focus on the problem at hand, and let's find a way to work together to make things better. And I think that begins by listening to the people who actually live and work on the border, like my neighbors in El Paso, Texas.
Two other questions for you, and I appreciate your time. What do you say? Do you hold President Biden responsible for the situation at the border right now?
It's clear that President Biden could be doing a better job at the border. It is not enough of a priority for his administration. And there's so much more that he could be doing, whether that is marshaling the countries of the Western Hemisphere to meet ahistorical challenges in migration, asylum seekers, and refugees, whether it is making sure that local communities have the resources to meet some of the challenges that they face, like those in Del Rio and otherwise, and then also using the power of his office to move this country forward on immigration reform. Immigration reform that listens to the people of Texas, Republicans and Democrats alike. We've got to have predictability, order, and the rule of law. And that means honoring our asylum laws when someone has a credible asylum claim. But Jack, that also means, and this is not popular amongst all Democrats, but it means that when someone comes here and doesn't have a credible asylum claim and has entered in between ports of entry, they should be deported back to the country from which they came. We've got to follow the law, and then we've got to improve the laws that are on the books by holding members of Congress accountable. So I want to make sure that we ask and expect more of everyone who's in a position of leadership right now who can do something about this.
And my last question, when you ran in 2018, it was considered a very good year for Democrats. You came close to defeating Senator Cruz. 2022 is a different story. Some Texas Democrats that I've spoken to acknowledge that it's going to be a challenging year because it's midterms for the Biden administration. So how are you going to run in, like I said, what Democrats believe is going to be a more challenging year?
You know, Greg Abbott has taken to calling himself the CEO of the state. And after losing power in the energy capital of North America, after making Texas number one in the nation in childhood COVID deaths, after losing every available pediatric ICU bed for a while because he prevented local school districts from requiring masks in the classroom, after having our local schools produce subpar outcomes, like the fact that only 30% of Texas students in a fourth grade classroom can read at grade level. I think the people of Texas, it won't be me, it won't be any candidate or political party, it'll be the people of Texas who realize it is time to fire this CEO and hire a new one. So it's incumbent on me to bring this message, the opportunities we have, the big things that we want to focus on, the change that we can make to every single community across the state. You cannot be too rural or too big city, too blue or too red for me to show up, to listen and learn and choose to work with you and be your partner as governor to make sure that we come through and do the things that are most important for all of us.
Beto O'Rourke, thank you again so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. Grateful.